Good afternoon, everyone. It's not Keith Willett, as he's asked me to stand in for him today. My name's Neville Gaunt. I'm the CEO of MindFit, and I just thought I'd give you a quick background of who I am. I cut my teeth in the oil industry, so please don't run out the door. We are talking about renewables after all. I worked on the Behaviour field back in 1984, and I've been in extractive industries more or less ever since. Mostly in the finance world, at board level and an operational level, and now working with a multitude of companies on, surprise, surprise, behavioural change. So thanks for everybody for warming this particular session up for today, because it would appear that behaviour is something we're not very good at, or maybe we'll come back to that later. So what I would like to do is to take the picture up a gear, up a level, up to a macro level. And over a year ago, the UN sponsored a global survey. It was taken by Accenture, and they went through the majority of large organisations throughout the world. And the good news is that 78% of executives said that sustainability and CSR, social responsibility, was fundamental, critical for their growth. So why aren't they doing anything about it? Well, the survey goes on to give 3 reasons why. And although they've got strategies in place that is about changing behaviour, they're struggling with employee engagement. And the word is struggling, because we've been struggling with employee engagement ever since we've understood the word engagement. Successful organisations are those that engage the hearts and minds. And on the first slide, this is all about engaging the hearts and minds, changing people's behaviour, not just, as Tim says, at an individual basis, but at a corporate basis too. And when you talk to these executives, and I see this daily, it's the mindset shift. This has been talked about so often now, not just at the low level, but also at the high level, at the operational and board level. So let's take the picture a little more local to renewables. And you'll see some of these themes following through, because one of these on here is relevant to wherever you've been, because these are taken from lots of websites to say why we're actually not doing it as fast as we can. But the point is, how can we deliver change and success in 30, 60 or 90 days? How can low carbon Scotland not only meet but exceed the targets that are already set? And we know we're already behind. Well, the big issue here is who's listening. You are. Is anybody else? The milestones for 2020, and Tim's put these up, so it's a nice feeding here, are very evident. I've only picked out 3, and I've paraphrased it, so wherever possible has been taken off, because really it should be almost everywhere. But as Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right. So where is your mindset? And what I'm going to do, oh, that's quite interesting. What I'm going to do is introduce you to our MindFit map. That's our MindFit map. It's not difficult to look at. But let me ask you, just on a show of hands, could you put up your hand if you think you've got a can-do attitude? That's pretty much most of the audience. So could I have a volunteer to come and juggle? Quite interesting, isn't it? How about sing? Would you like to come and sing? There was someone I met earlier who said they could sing. No, we know this man can sing. You know what? Have you ever followed someone like this? It's really quite difficult. But you all said you had a can-do attitude. So I'm going to introduce you to our map. And there are only 3 states on the map. There's can't do, won't do, and can do. And unfortunately, the thunder's been stole here, because you've already seen, because the PowerPoint hasn't worked properly, as it always does, is that Gallup do these surveys every single year. And we've seen some of the survey for 2014, and sadly, the results are not much different. They haven't been for the last 15 years. You see, the can-do attitudes at the top only account for 17% of people in the UK. Is that shocking? Silence. So clearly not shocking. And the thing about that is, it's the won't and the can't do attitudes that are stopping our behaviour and our change in climate change and in the renewable arena. So what we need to do is we've got to get this fat guy from London, and we've got to get him off the bottom of that seesaw. Because all the can-do people at the top are saying the right thing, and the people down the bottom are saying, no, we've got to do things right. And now we call this bottom area behavioural waste. Could I just have a show of hands who would like to have all their behaviours wasteful? Thank you for the joke. The point is, behavioural waste is a waste of energy. It's not actually progressive. It's stopping our activity. So how are we going to get low carbon Scotland successful? Well, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to change that balance. And the way we're going to change that balance is we're going to start with preventing systemic and behavioural waste. And it's systemic for a reason, and I'll go into that. But here's a definition of behavioural waste. And it's our definition because it's our term. It's a waste that diverts energy, all your talent and resources, away from your personal purpose and that of your organisation. In other words, this is an example of behavioural waste. We're doing the same old thinking with the same old results. If we're going to get different results, we've got to change our thinking. Edward de Bono said, think out the box. So isn't it about time we started to think outside the box? But more importantly, act outside the box. So here's a technical definition, but behavioural waste leads to cultural gridlock. The good thing is, we know we do it regularly. We can usefully remove it and reduce it, and that makes way for growth behaviours. But if you don't do it, it prevents us from achieving our purpose, and actually it stops other people achieving theirs. We all know this. People change, organisations don't. And I could have written this 30 years ago with my short experience within extractive industries. We focus far too much on technical change and business outcomes. We're always focused on the end game. We always assume that people are on the bus. The problem is we've got people that aren't on the bus, and if they get on the bus, they're not actually engaged in what we're doing. It's what they call the largest elephant in the room. And if anyone's from L&D here, they'll all know about what the elephant in the room is. We always avoid the elephant in the room. We know they're there, we can hear them, we can see them, but for some reason we're blind to dealing with them. And the biggest issue of that is going back to, again, the sustainability arena, is that it's our leadership that has to change. So is this happening, the rollout of renewables? And the answer is probably yes. To what degree, we don't know, but we're not achieving what we can achieve, even with the small changes that Tim just mentioned. But we also know that our brains are the most important thing that we've been given. And if we change our attitude here, we can change the outer aspects of our lives. It's been proven so many times. I'm just going to take you through a traditional business model because I mentioned systemic change and systemic behaviours. We have a very linear way we look at business. We look at people implementing processes and systems for outcomes. Well, at MindFit, we've got a different way of looking at things because we're not linear thinkers. We're actually quite complex animals. It's called complexity theory. If anyone wants to look it up or talk to me afterwards, I'm quite happy to take them through it. So we're going to change that business model to look at the right-hand side. So that's changing behaviours at the same time of doing things systemically correct. So the right-hand side is all about doing the right thing. The left-hand side is doing things right. That's the way we introduce our model to senior executives typically. And again, the left-hand side is doing things right. We have to. We're bound by HSE regulation wherever we go. But we must do the right thing. So if we've got the wrong regulations going on in our organisation, we need to change them. We need to challenge them. And if anyone can remember the recession, because the last financial disaster back in 2007, we didn't have whistleblowers in 2005. They knew it was happening because the people were doing things right. They weren't doing the right thing. just one example, but it is absolutely everywhere. So what we've got to do is got to rebalance. I haven't put the fat man back here, but we need to get this balance right. We need to do the right thing on the right-hand side and do things right on the left-hand side. It looks a little funny like that, but it's amazing how well this can actually work. And as Warren Bennis once said, and again this goes back 40 years, it's leaders that do the right thing, managers are the ones that do things right. Perhaps we've just got too many managers and we haven't got enough leaders. I'll pose that as a question and we can pick that up later. So for Low Carbon Scotland, it's a hearts and minds solution. It's about changing behaviour. This morning's sessions were all about behavioural change. We know how to do that and we can do it very quickly. And within an organisational point of view, we do get greater engagement. All of these issues are possible with a hearts and minds engagement solution. And our MindFit approach to renewable energy is quite simple, and Tim's mentioned it. Stop looking for the big wins, because they're not there anymore. Start looking for small changes that have a big impact. I won't do what he did with his mouth, but we were in awe of some of those small changes that have a huge impact. And within an organisation, the first thing is eliminate behavioural waste, because we've all got it. Here's a really simple example. A small change. Those results are real, but in actual fact, the payback could be 12 months. It's eco-grade, it's up on the stand upstairs. It just goes in line with what Tim was saying about the Plum Centre. Just make one change. And then actually, when you get the benefit from that one change, you will make another and another and another, because you're driven with money. Fundamentally, we're driven by money. So look for the 1,000% improvement, because it's there, but look for it in the 1% changes. Because as you take 1% change and then another and another, it's quite a good world, because you've had a bit of success. And all of a sudden, the ones become 5, become 10, become 20. It's not difficult to do, and our brains are biased towards being optimistic. So let's start being that way. So just before I finish, the elephant is in the room, and he's probably in several organisations, back in those organisations now. And this is the sound that elephant's making, okay? But again, we're not looking at it and we're not listening to it. But if you do take that elephant out of the room and deal with behavioural waste, these are the engagement statistics that are regularly printed. This is just an average of what happens in organisations. And if you want to get access to that, you need to get rid of behavioural waste to start with. So it's a hearts and minds solution for Low Carbon Scotland to make it a success. No one wants waste. Behavioural waste is something we've got, but we perhaps don't even know we're doing it. Turning up for meetings late is a behavioural waste activity. It's as simple as that. In times of austerity, behavioural waste really does draw you down. In times of growth, you probably don't notice as much, but it's still there. It was there yesterday, it's cost you money. It's there today, although you still can't see it. And if you don't deal with it, it'll be there tomorrow and for the rest of the organisation's life. So if you take that out of the way, will you rebalance? Will you start to do the right thing as well as things right? Will you take out the behavioural waste that's currently there and allow your organisations to grow? It is a hearts and minds situation as far as MindFit's concerned. It's all about behavioural change. Now's the time to do it, and a small change has a very big impact. My name's Neville Gaunt. I'm on the eco-grady stand. I'm delighted to take any questions later if we can't do it within this session here. But thanks very much for listening, and good luck with the rest of the day.